Last week, Brackeys hosted their 8th ever game jam. I'm sure almost everyone watching knows what a game jam is, so I'll quickly explain it. A game jam is a community event where a ton of game developers get together to build a game around a set theme in a short amount of time. For this jam, we were given a week to make a game with the theme, You're Not Alone. Over 6,000 people entered, so I had to make my game semi-unique to stand out. For the first day, my goal was just to figure out what I wanted to make. I figured you could look at this theme in two different ways: a scary You're Not Alone, or a supportive You're Not Alone. Now, one thing you need to know about game jams is you need to make the game accessible. That means it can't be too hard, and 90% of the time it has to be playable in browser. Most people won't download a game jam game. This really limits what we can do and makes making a scary game significantly harder. So instead, I decided to lean into the supportive angle. I figured most people doing this would either make a game where you play as two people or have an annoying support character. So instead, I decided to take a more artistic approach and come up with an idea with a deeper meaning. Imagine you're going to work every day, say something random like, I don't know, an engineer, but you hate the day-to-day and want to change. So one day you decide to take the more risky path and pursue your passions. Say something random like game dev. Way less people take this path, but with their support and knowledge, you can make it too. And that's where this game comes in. You play as a square who takes the path less traveled. You go in alone, but quickly realize that other people have been here before and their experiences will help you get to the end. So the main mechanic of this game is if you don't succeed, you actually just make it easier for the next person. In this case, by making a new platform for them. This fits the theme and makes it so people of all skill levels are able to beat it, because the more you fail, the easier it becomes. What a metaphor. Now I just have to actually make it. Like most 2D games, we start with the square, add a few colliders, and wow, look at that, ready to submit already. But in all seriousness, when making a 2D platformer, the player movement has to be perfect. Think Mario, Super Meat Boy, Celeste, all these games perfective movement and build from there. Now I only have 1 week, so don't be expecting Mario. But there are some key mechanics I want to add. Starting off with a variable jump height, adding the ability to hold jump to jump higher gives the player way more control and feels much better than if all jumps were the same height every time. This actually wasn't too hard to implement. I just had to increase the gravity on the object whenever you let go of the jump button. Now while testing this, I was finding that you had to time your jumps perfectly or else you wouldn't jump at all. So I added a jump buffer. This makes it so you can hit jump a little before you hit the ground and you'll still jump. That already feels much better. The last movement mechanic I wanted to add was Coyote Time. Named after the famous Wile E. Coyote, this is a common platformer mechanic where you can walk off the platform and you still have a few frames where you're able to jump. This makes running and jumping feel way more responsive. The movement is already feeling much better, but I'm having a problem where if you jump into the wall, you stick to it. It's kinda bad coding on my part. Unless I turn it into a wall jump, then boom, it's a feature. Moving on, I then implemented the main mechanic of the game. I made it so when you die, you leave a platform behind and you spawn back at the beginning. I also made it so you could choose to die wherever you wanted by hitting the down button, and I think that's a great start for the week. With all the base mechanics in, I moved on to the part that always limits what I can do in a week: make art. There is a reason I kept the player to be a simple shape the whole time, and it's only half because they make better platforms. I threw together some art that I think is passable and put it in my game. And now you're a cute little cube stepping all over dead people. Don't think about it too much. I actually got to use a tile map for the first time, so that was neat. I'm really happy I didn't have to manually place everything, because that would have taken way too long. Moving off the computer, I drew up the first 5 levels. I wanted these to be easy levels that teach you the mechanics. Level 1's basic movement, level 2 is wall jumps, level 3 teaches you to think with bodies, and so on. Since I already had it drawn out, it was pretty easy to put in the game. Thursday was all about adding new levels, as well as adding the new shape, a circle. The circle is different because it cannot jump, but it will bounce as high as it falls. This makes crossing large gaps really easy, but you have to watch out for spikes because they will pop you. Luckily, you can use the square to make new platforms, so the circle can cross safely. I had a lot of fun designing levels using the circle and the square. I think they're really fun and they emphasize the theme really well. After I finished those, I was kind of drawing blanks on level design, so I spent the rest of the day designing some more. So I broke out the notebook again and ended up designing the rest of them. This made the rest of the week much easier. Since I had already designed all the levels, I could really focus on making new mechanics, so that's exactly what I did, by adding the triangle. Well, really it's a trapezoid because I made the top flat so you could stand on it, but that's not important. The triangle is unique because it's sharp. It will stick to anything. Wherever you die, the triangle will stay exactly where it is. This can be used to make a ledge on a wall, or make a platform in the middle of an impossible gap. I had a lot of fun designing around this character, and it actually led me to make the last level a little too hard. That's right, I finished making every level today, so tomorrow I can just focus on polish. Now, there is a reason I wanted to get all the levels made with the day left, and that's because I always drag my feet with what comes next. Adding mechanics and levels is fun, adding menus and sounds suck, but it needed to be done. But instead of showing that boring stuff, I also added some new features. To start, I added a reset button. Sometimes you get too many bodies stacked up and you just need a fresh start, so that does it real quick. I also added a death counter and a timer. This lets you choose how difficult you want the game to be. There isn't a set difficulty, so if you want you can just play the game and use as many attempts as you want. Or you could decide you want to go for the least amount of deaths, or the fastest time. It's up to you. Here's my best score if anyone wanted to try to beat it. But it's interesting that just adding a simple counter can really improve your game. Now that everything's finished, I can finally upload it to itch. And it broke. Okay, after like an hour of troubleshooting, I finally got it to load. Thank you, Unity. I'll leave a link below if you want to play it. I wish I had more time to pretty up the game a little bit with particle effects and other things, but it's a jam game, so what can you expect? I'm just proud that I finished it. Is it the best jam game ever made? Yes it is.